realistic idea of how all of this works now. But the thing, I'm glad you weren't deterred, we all are, but you know, how do you find it now? Obviously you're dealing with that, you know, like I said, tenfold with Snapchat and Twitter and Facebook and what the hell else is there? There's so many. I mean, the age is completely different over there.
Yeah. I think we deal with it in a really healthy way. I think we have distance from it. We have rules. We've always had a rule, like one of our big rules is just everything that we put out there has to be positive. I think we've managed to sidestep a lot of the negativity that you can find on social media by not putting any negativity onto social media. It seems what you put out you do attract. That definitely is true. We've managed in almost 20 years of being a band only really to have one major controversy that kind of happened online, and I think that we have just decided that even though it doesn't necessarily make us as interesting or as cool or as biting, we just stay positive online and we try not to read a ton of comments, and we try not to get, when there is negativity, we try not to buy into it. You know, Sarah will post something sometimes on Instagram and it'll be, especially if it's political, there'll be a sea of like, you know, awful stuff underneath, and then like, I'll see her 10 minutes later, she'll post like her cat. And it's all positive.
And I stick with the cats.
Yeah, like it's like she puts the Band-Aid, it's like she puts the cats over top of it, and I can see, so we have a strategy, and our strategy is that most people are really nice, most people are really kind, most people are really open, most people are not going to write ridiculous, hateful stuff on a random person's Instagram page, and so we try not to fall down into that dark place and focus on it.
I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about songwriting, because it's something really near and dear to my heart. You guys, I've always tried to figure out who writes what. Like a lot of times I'll listen to your record before I look at any of the accreditation and think, who's done this, who wrote that, was it Tegan or Sara? And I just want to talk to you about doing it individually and working together, and what coming from here has sort of had to do with you as young songwriters moving forward.
I mean, we grew up seeing concerts all the time. Our stepdad was a big Bruce Springsteen fan. We saw the New Kids on the Block when we were like 8 years old. I mean, we loved music. My grandparents.
I saw them in my 30s.
We just met them a couple of years ago, and it was like they looked nervous around us. We were
like we just acted so crazy. But you know, we were a music family. We had all of our parents loved music. My grandparents had like a full country and western bar in their basement, jukebox, dance floor, you know, like just, it was crazy. So we, for me, I think that the types of songwriting that I heard early on were the things that we really quickly adapted into our own songwriting. Like, so we grew up with a lot of old school country, Bruce Springsteen, like all that sort of stuff.
Great foundation.
Great foundations, and so right away when we started writing, like Tegan said earlier, we did it in secret. So I remember taking the guitar and fooling around in my room, and then the guitar would not be in my room, and I'd hear Tegan down the hall doing the same thing. And we didn't really come together and start collaborating for a little while, and it was really organic. I mean, it was just like, oh, maybe you could sing the same thing I'm singing, which is a miracle actually, because it was mostly nonsensical. I mean, like a lot of it was very, was sort of like there was no structure to a song. It was sort of like there's this part and then there's this part, and sometimes this part was way longer than, and then the next time we'd play it, we'd have some drinks, and this part would be like 10 times as long, and like, so it was confusing. We actually just very early on were really intuitive with one another. I can remember being at parties and Tegan would start playing a song that was familiar to me, but I would have to just feel her vibe, like, you know, I don't want to call it like a twin thing, but it was like, I would be like, oh, I think she's going into that other section now, and I would try to like sing with her or harmonize with her, play little guitar lines, accompanying her, but we didn't really figure out our songwriting until we started recording ourselves, and that started after high school.
Was it always of such a personal nature?
Yeah,
you write a lot about unrequited love, falling in love, falling out of love, yearning for love, you know, all those things that are important to all of us as listeners.
Yeah. I don't remember hearing music that wasn't about that, and I've thought about that a lot, because we get asked all the time, like, do you ever think you'll write about other stuff? And I've wondered, like, is it because we're girls? Is it sort of like the music industry's way of saying, cheer up, smile, like, what are you so sad about? You know, you got something else to say, you know, or whatever. I always wondered, like,
there's so much joy in the sadness.
There is, and there's also, like, for me, it's like, love is not about love, it's about relationships. It's about the end of, you know, relationships. It's about, you know, my relationship with Tegan, my family, myself, with society. A lot of those things were in the music, but it was easy to use lyrics that were very like first person, you know, and just talking to one person, and, you know, working through things that we were going through with lots of different types of people and relationships. But you know, Tegan and I, we really fumbled through those first years until we could record ourselves and hear it and then make changes that way. That's how we really figured out how to write songs.
I think your harmonies, your vocal sounds have been really at the cutting edge of the success that you've had going into contemporary pop music. It really, you guys sound like nothing else. You know, I think about the Everly Brothers, that sibling sound, the Cowsill family and the Osmonds and the Jackson Five. I mean, there's a sound that siblings make, and maybe you don't have to be musical to understand this, but there's something that vibration that hits that is just,
Yeah.
there's just nothing like it on this planet.
Yeah, there's something really fantastic about it, and there's something actually kind of awful about it, because and I say this only that because our voices are, they're unique and different from each other, but also so similar, and we can sing very well together, but also it's confusing. So, and
How so?
well, this will be a hard thing to try to explain to anyone who's not musical in the room, but I think you will definitely understand this, and I hope to do a good job explaining it. But actually recently we were in the studio. We went actually to a beautiful studio in Los Angeles. Capitol Records has like an amazing studio there, and we got to record a version of a new song of ours called Stop Desire in Simlish, which is the language of Sims. I know, don't worry, look it up now. It's a video game. It's a video game where you build like a world. Okay?
No, I know,
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, me too. So, and I was like, I kind of wanted to do it, but also didn't want to do it, and I kind of dragged my feet. At one point, there was going to be a video.
Is it a different language?
Yes.
Okay.
It's literally a different language that they have created. It's been on, I think it's been 14 years or something. This is their 14th year or something. So when they started explaining it to us, like, it was one of those things that I get an email from my management and think, like, sure. I literally write back, sure. And then as it comes to fruition, I'm like, this is a nightmare. How do we get out of it without seeming like terribly unprofessional people?
I mean, it's like singing in it's like singing in Russian. Like,
They sent it to me, and I looked at it, and I wrote back and was like, can I get a phonetic spelling of this? Like, and then my manager wrote back, it is spelled out phonetically. And I was like, well, this word and that word, like, can be said differently. Like, can you just, anyway, I backed out of a lot of the elements, like having a film crew there, because I was like, this is gonna mostly just probably be really embarrassing. And then spent an absurd amount of time, more time than I've probably spent studying for like our year-end exams in grade 12.
learn a language.
To learn a language, because.
By the way, the embarrassing part is
They're going to be doing the song for us today.
we probably could, it's so further than here. But by the way, just to be clear,
Sims is not the embarrassing thing. Sims is not the embarrassing thing. Us learning how to do it.
Yeah.
This is what's crazy about
And remember, this is going to be archived forever.
I know. What's
Here at the National Music Center.
Well, this is, okay, so I'm gonna try to get back on topic here. So we're at the studio doing this, and in the end, you know, I did prepare, which was probably the first time in my life I've ever prepared for anything, and I went in, and it was really interesting actually to sing in a different language, especially a song that was so familiar to me, because I really had to stretch my brain, and it ended up sounding great, and it is gonna come out in the new version of Sims that's coming out in November, I think. Anyway, so it all worked out great, but at the end of the session, the guy who was the engineer, he had worked a lot actually with the carpenters, and he was telling us how interesting it was, because as soon as Sarah and I get to the studio, we're like, I don't want to hear her voice. I don't want to hear her. I can't hear her, or else it'll throw me off. And he said that this is quite common with people who have like sibling bands specifically, but they don't like to hear each other because it can be quite confusing. And when you're crossing notes with each other, you forget, like I sometimes will cross with Sarah.
go with her.
I'll go with her, and all of a sudden we're singing in unison rather than singing our harmony. It sounds terrible, but just in the crossing note. And so in the last couple of years, we've both been spending a lot of time muting each other, which I think back in the day,
It's amazing.
Yeah. When we would arrive at venues, we would struggle to figure out our monitor mix. It would be like, less Sarah, more Sarah, can you put reverb on her? We really struggled, and now we're just like, none. Not her, not here.
So when you're working live,